in a fortress originally built to fend off an American invasion, the Prime Minister is gathering his cabinet to prepare for the battles ahead.
Our values must be fought for. That's what we are doing. That's what Canadians want. Canadians are up for it.
Rallying national unity after his Davos speech drew criticism from Donald Trump.
Canada lives because of the United States. Remember that, Mark, the next time you make your statements.
Canada doesn't live because of the United States. Canada thrives because we are Canadian.
As Carney directed his second major speech this week at Canadians, his speech on the world stage Tuesday continues to make waves.
Give me a break. They have the second best deal in the world. And all I got to do is listen to this guy whine and complain.
That was an important moment for the Prime Minister to show his leadership.
Carney's messages setting the tone for the federal government's direction as it navigates growing geopolitical tensions.
We can only control what we can control as a cabinet and as a country, but I'm not going to pretend that it won't be difficult over the next little while.
In a lengthy statement, Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre calls Carney's remarks at the World Economic Forum well-crafted, but blasted what he called Carney's failure to deliver on key promises.
They do have to start to really point to things that they're doing, and people need to start feeling that there's at least some progress, right?
This pollster says there may not be much runway left for this minority government to move on its priorities, including improving the economy and affordability.
If there's a liability, it's that, and they need to perhaps do better in making people feel that things are going to get better, that create a little more optimism about how things are going to go over the next number of months and years.
When it comes to the upcoming review of the Canada-United States-Mexico agreement, a senior government source tells CBC News that the minister responsible for Canada-U.S. trade, Dominic LeBlanc, is still planning to head to Washington, D.C. in the coming weeks to officially launch those formal negotiations.
Okay, but Olivia, this is still against a backdrop of those very stark words from Mark Carney in Davos that Trump clearly noticed.
Yeah, and a senior source tells me that this was intentional and that they believe that Carney's Davos speech puts Canada in a stronger negotiating position because the U.S. is now keenly aware of where Canada stands, and that the plan going forward, according to this source, is for Canada to stay the course and allow cooler heads to prevail.
All right, thank you. That is Olivia Stefanovich in Quebec City. Let's turn now to Chief Political Correspondent Rosemary Barton. So, Rosie, a pretty remarkable week for Carney. Two big speeches, but the one today, very different from what we heard in Davos.
Yeah, for sure. This was clearly a speech for a domestic audience, Adrienne, for Canadians themselves. It was steeped in history and symbolism, and it was, to try and remind Canadians how this country is so different from the United States, both in how it was created and how it works now. You heard that very direct response to Donald Trump at the end, too. So in some ways, a continuation of the themes of that speech in Davos, but in this case, also talking about the government's agenda and the need to act quickly in light of the world right now. There was also a lot of French in the speech, in part because of the location, obviously, but also because of some of the real concerns around national unity in this country, whether it be in Quebec or Alberta. That part may have backfired a little bit. You'll hear more about that on At Issue later. But if the Davos speech was lauded the world over, this speech didn't deliver quite as much in terms of the details of the government's priorities, how that's going to unfold, and explaining it to Canadians in a way that will make them understand how the government's trying to help.
And of course, when it comes to actually getting things done, he's still coming back to a minority parliament.
Yeah, in some ways, the past 10 or so days that he's been on the road around the world may have been easier than what he's coming back to on Monday. It's easier to make deals and get investments than it is to move forward a legislative agenda when you don't have a majority. And some of what the Prime Minister wants to do does require that. You heard today, though, some rare praise from Pierre Poilievre about the speech itself. He then went on for about 6 more pages to talk about the failures of the government, whether it be on resource development or affordability. And that's a sign that Poilievre is obviously only going to go so far, and the Conservatives aren't going to make things any easier for the Prime Minister. That will be the challenge for the government as the House returns to work on Monday.
All right, Rosie, thank you.
Thank you.